This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Police are still investigating the circumstances surrounding an attempted armed robbery that has left a 35-year-old man in hospital.
The robbery took place outside of the Everything and More convenience store on Blue Hill Road, just opposite Marshall Road.
Tonight, LaDon Davis tells us that despite the information given by police, the owner of the food store was not harmed in the incident.
This is a scene of an armed robbery that ended violently for a 35-year-old Nassau Village man who was shot twice to the body on Tuesday afternoon. Owner of the Everything and More convenience store, Pastor Andrew Brown, says he is deeply concerned about the escalating crime war in the country.
I am a pastor. I'm not in fear for my life, but I am concerned about our country and about the level of crime. But I realize that we have done some stuff a long time ago to cause these things now to come upon us. And I believe unless we go back to see exactly the root of this and what we have done to cause this to come upon us and then try to work it from there, then it will not go away. We will have it on us even longer and perhaps worse.
Pastor Brown says he went to the hospital to pray for the victim on Tuesday and was told by the victim's wife that he is still alive and responding. The pastor later recalled the horrific turn of events.
Well, I was in the store and I saw a crowd of people coming running from to the east of the building, and some of them said, open the door because they said it's a robbery, and opened the door because there were some ladies and some men. So I told them they could have come in the store, and as soon as they reached the door, I heard a gunshot. And when I looked on the outside, I saw a gentleman laying on the ground. That's a gentleman that frequents the area a lot, kind of hang out around here almost every day, but over to the south of this building, so in another property.
Officer in charge of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Roll, gave ZNS News an update on that shooting and their investigations.
Around 6:45 p.m., a group of males were sitting under the tree playing dominoes when three males pulled up in a Honda-type vehicle and exited. Two of the men were armed with handguns and approached the group that were playing. And one of the persons that were playing got up and attempted to leave as he saw the man approach. One of them then discharged his weapon several times in his direction, hitting him twice to the upper body.
Now police say they are following some significant leads as they work to solve this crime. LaDon Davis, ZNS Network News.
Government's shock treatment program is progressing steadily and is said to already be reaping benefits. It's part of government's extensive crime-fighting initiative targeting at-risk young men.
Now, we've been promoting the program for quite some time, and ZNS has produced a 7-part series on the initiative, which has been pushed back to next week due to some issues preventing its airing on the station.
Tonight, Kendino Knowles takes a look at the program.
It's an intense program implemented by the Ministry of National Security designed to prevent at-risk young men from turning to a life of crime through scare tactics that bring these young men face to face with what could become their reality.
The journey for these young men began here at the Central Police Station in downtown Nassau. Once they arrived, they realized that they were about to get a whole lot more than they expected.
For some of them, it was reality, but for some of them, they've seen the cell before. See, folks on the outside believe that these young men that we were dealing with, these the little goody, the little stonker mama, little stonker. Nah, this ain't upset. These are said that the parents are saying, man, look at man, I had enough. The school saying, boy, y'all need to do something with them because we want them out to school.
You and I will probably end up in a morgue at some point or another, and all for different reasons. But the group was taken to the Rand Laboratory at the Princess Margaret Hospital to see up close and personal the fate most criminals or their victims will face.
So sometimes they want to know why somebody dies. And so those are the people that will come. Sometimes doctors know.
And as traumatic as that experience at the morgue may have been for some of the young men, things got more emotional when they had to come here to Woodlawn Gardens Cemetery, where they met a mother who was still grieving the loss of her son, the victim or one of the victims in that mass shooting in Fox Hill. The most intense part of the program was perhaps day 2, which began with an early morning bus ride that brought the group here to Her Majesty's prison.
You're not reading properly, you're not writing properly, and you have no discipline.
Now, the program definitely had some very serious moments, but it wasn't all doom and gloom for these young men. They were in fact treated to a number of outings, including at the Atlantis and Bahama resorts. We'll certainly have more on that in our next segment. Kindino Knowles, ZNS Network News.
Several young people voicing their concerns while giving their expectations about the labor movement in the country during a panel discussion at the Musicians and Entertainers Hall last evening. The event is part of a week of activities planned to celebrate the accomplishments of the labor movement in the country. First Vice President of the National Congress of Trade Unions and Chairman of the Labor Day Celebrations Committee, Teresa Mortimer, says this event is just one way to prepare young Bahamians for the trade union movement.
So Randolph was very instrumental, and he really thought about the working class. The working class today includes our young people, so we dare not forget them. What we want to hear from our young people tonight is, what do they expect from the trade union movement? This legacy must go on. We must pass the baton on, and in doing that we need to hear from them so we know how to prepare the young people of our nation for the labor movement in years to come.
College of the Bahamas student Tyson McKenzie was one of 4 presenters at the panel discussion who touched on the role of a union versus the employer.
That as the unions, the employer will not fill all of the gaps. So what the employer need to do is what the union need to do is fill the gaps that the employer cannot fill. That's enticing them in terms of the educational opportunities, because the employer cannot do all of that. So where the employer cannot do, let the union do it. Then you have these opportunities for, I guess, health and medical and all those other things that the employer can only go so far with.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
This is your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly. Value-added tax is intended to be a consumption tax and not a business tax, according to a top accountant. Speaking to the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services annual seminar recently, principal at Delaney & Associates, Pedro Delaney, explained the impact VAT could have on the financial services sector based on the current draft legislation.
Under the draft bill, there are 3 different treatments which are afforded to the supply of financial services. In one instance, financial services are exempt. In another instance, financial services are 0 rated. And thirdly, financial services do attract VAT.
In other business news, 2 leading attorneys in Grand Bahama gave an update to members seeking clarification on the fees and taxes that were implemented last July through the Customs Management Act during a recent Chamber of Commerce meeting. Some are claiming the newer items contravene the nature of the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, under which all businesses in the Freeport area operate. And in international news, U.S. car makers reported strong sales figures last month. Chrysler said sales were up 17%, driven by its Jeep brand, which saw sales jump 58% after it introduced new models. General Motors reported a 12.6% rise in sales compared with the same period last year. Ford posted a better-than-expected 3% increase in sales, helped by an increasing demand for SUVs as well as its Fusion sedan. This has been your Royal Fidelity Business News. I'm C.S. Scatterly.